And so, without further ado, let's introduce these players battling it out for their glory and their chance to qualify. Up here in the top right position of Beckett Industries to start things off, give it up for Clem. And his opponent, he is down here playing for NC Esports. He is the terror of Europe. He is Cyril. And these are coming to you from the NeXT qualifiers. The first one, like I said, this is the absolute last match for these guys in order to qualify for the main event, Season 1 of the NeXT tournament. So these guys are definitely going to be giving it their all because nobody wants to go out in second place. And now what we see here is something very, very interesting as Cyril has the spawning pool first. Obviously what that means is that he is not looking to have a normal standard game. He is looking to be aggressive early on. He wants to put some pressure on because he does not want Clem to get up to that 3-base situation where he is so powerful. He is consistently persistent. And the best way to kind of get rid of that is to put on this early aggression and, you know, kind of just take away a lot of the wind from your sails. Put him outside of his comfort zone. And this is actually going to be very, very committed as we do have the Roach Warren coming down as well. So that does mean that Cyril, ooh, he's going to go ham here. And Clem does see this. Just by noticing the timing on that hatchery, he knows that it is the spawning pool first. So he's got to recognize, okay, do I defend the low ground? Or do I kind of just sacrifice that, get bunkered up in the main base, and then try and defend from there? Because obviously as a Terran player, you can still build your CC. You're not going to get denied that base for very long if you lose that position, but you still have to kind of make that decision, that determination pretty darn soon because the Roaches are already going to be on their way across the map. They will morph in the Ravagers. So, yeah, Clem so far is just going to keep another SCV right there. I kind of like having that backup. That's a pretty interesting way to kind of deal with this. You should see... Actually, what is he doing right now? It looks like he's going to go for a Hellions. I don't really like that decision here from Clem because Hellions don't really do as well versus the Roaches as you might expect. In fact, they are pretty bad about it. They're essentially tickle cannons or a good sauna. So he's going to have a little bit of trouble dealing with them, but he does get rid of the first couple of lings. And here we go. The Roaches have made their way across. They will deny one of the supply depots early on, and that is good to kind of keep Clem from producing too much. But now Clem is just going to dive right on top of this, but he has to retreat. He will sacrifice the low ground here. Will be able to get the bunkers up, or excuse me, the depots up in time, but unfortunately they just fall very, very quickly. So now Cyril is in the main base and he is pumping through these SCVs, all of them having to be pulled to hold this down. And while he will start to get cleaned up here, actually not focus firing as well as he necessarily should. Only 5 workers going down, so honestly that was a pretty good hold for Clem. Only losing that amount, he still has his natural up in mining, while Cyril only just taking a third. And now Cyril's kind of stuck in this situation where he has to continuously produce Roaches. He can't transition back into Zerglings if he wanted to because he doesn't have speed. So they won't be able to be ready in time for this attack coming out of Clem. And so, yeah, this is a little bit of a tricky position for him. He's going to have to wait till he has that roach count nice and heavy. Cyclone as well, just going to be added to the fray. This will force Clem to back off. He didn't really commit too heavily to this attack. We're going to lose some of the lock-ons here because no high ground vision. The Zerglings looking for the wraparound. But Clem is still forcing a big reaction out of SERRAL with this. We are only at 36 workers for SERRAL. But he's not able to safely expand. He is not able to safely build that drone count up because he had to make so many units to defend. Now going for a little bit of a counterattack. I don't think you want to trade out any of these units. Because again, you want to be kind of droning up a little bit here. Looks like he's just going to go all in though. I kind of understand that. I kind of think that's a decent, like, it's a good idea because you are going to be very far behind if you don't get a lot of damage done, like, right now. But it's going to be really difficult to break through that wall. We already have a siege tank ready to go. And that marine count is getting nice and healthy as well. First big shot on the siege tank. We'll get a lot of damage on those Ravagers. One of them will go down, but without the finished wall here, it looks like Clem is starting to take massive amounts of damage, but SERRAL slowly being forced back. 18 workers going down, though. And that looks like it might be it for our French Terran player here. He will hold the last stand up here at the top, but he never remade that supply depot wall. So as the last units go down, SERRAL takes the game, and he will go up 1-0 in this best of 3 series. And there is nothing too crazy this time. SERRAL recognizing that while he did do a bit of damage early on, it was nowhere near the amount that's really needed to kind of make it worth it. He had to invest a lot of extra minerals, a lot of extra gas into that follow-up attack in order to kind of close out Clem. And if Clem had had the wall up, it would have been a much more difficult situation. So it kind of came down to more mistakes from Clem than a great attack from SERRAL. Now we do see the spawning pool coming on in. A Reaper going to be the next choice here. So changing it up very slightly. This is one of the few matchups we still do see that Reaper, as a lot of Terran players have kind of started to go away from it in other matchups. Just because it does kind of slow down your factory timing slightly. It's just kind of one of those decisions that you make. Clem will get confirmation as well that it was that hatchery first. That is music to his ears. But the big question is, when is the first big move out going to come? Because that will definitely set the pace for the entire game. The Terran is usually the one who is not required, but he is kind of pressed to do a little bit of damage early on versus a Zerg player, because you do need to slow down that drone count, force the use of larvae in ways that your opponent doesn't want to expend them in. And here we go. This is something that we see Clem do a lot, adding on the third CC. And I love it, especially when we saw in the kind of last game, SERRAL was going for a bit more of an aggressive all-in strategy. So that third CC is going to allow Clem to kind of soak up a little bit of additional damage without really feeling it as badly. He will be able to reinforce his bases a little bit quicker, and he's going to be able to get up to that 3 base economy so much faster than SERRAL's 4th that it's really going to be difficult for SERRAL to put on any pressure like he did in the last game. Does get one of the creep tumors, which is pretty nice. That's 25 minerals away from those queens. And now we do see the Hellions coming in. They're just for a little bit of map presence. Cyril does take advantage of the opening here, forces the Hellions to come home. There's anything he can to kind of delay so that he can drone up even heavier. Right now he's sitting at about 41. So that is pretty good, all things considered. And now we do see a little bit of a poke in there, just making sure that he sees what's going on. He sees the Raven play is most likely the case, and so you can just throw down a Spore Crawler. It's not going to be the biggest of deals to you. But you know, Clem is adding on quite a few Hellions here. We already have 6 out on the map, and 4 more are going to be on the way soon. Going for the Queen, but will not be able to get it. A good pullback there from Cyril. So I'm wondering what he's going to be doing with all of these Hellions. Looks like right now they're just going to be on creep duty. They will not have a scan. Gets a little bit too far forward, though. Clem going to get surrounded. Cyril pouncing on this attack, and that is a lot of damage dealt. Taking a look at that units lost tab. Yeah, that is definitely going to push things into Cyril's favor. And now we do have them still kind of rotating around, still looking for damage where they can find it. Again, this is a lot of Hellions. Usually at this point, if you're going for Terran Bio, which Clem is, you would just use those extra minerals to drop down additional racks so that you can power up, but see, I don't know if this is necessarily better because he really hasn't been able to utilize these Hellions efficiently. Yes, they have been out on the map. They have been kind of roaming around, rotating in. But at the same time, like, what have they done? They've killed some creep tumors, and that's it. They haven't really even made a dent in the link count either. They will find a couple of drones right here, which is very nice. But the Queens are already in position to respread that creep and put it in a nice position, as Clem is going to lift up with 1.5 full medevacs. So now Cyril, at that point where he's at 75 workers, from here, he can just pump out Lings, pump out Banes, get those upgrades roaring in at roughly the same time as Clem. But it looks like the Queens are a little bit exposed here. The Lings way far out of position. They will reinforce now. So we'll have to see what he can get done with this attack. The armory will not be done for a while, so these are going to stay as Hellions. Ooh, we do have a nice little Baneling attack coming in, but Cyril's attention is over here. Good pull away on the first one, but a huge Widowmine shot will clean up a lot of those Banes. So now Clem is doing what he can. He is starting to break through here. He does take quite a few hits on there. 19 workers going down. And he will be starting to push back here, but once again, just take a look at this. Clem is making 9 Marines at a time. He has stopped all upgrade production, so he has extra minerals to bear. And the Widowmines are getting godly connections on these Lings. Respread is pretty good. The Baneling's not able to find the connections that they need, so Cyril is still in a lot of trouble right here. Even pulling off the creep, Clem finding some good focus fire. Oh, I do not envy Cyril right now, and neither does he. GG. We have a tied-up series, 1 apiece. So I guess we're gonna be like I said, this is the last game of the qualifier for these two, so they do not want to kind of throw away this opportunity, because while there are a bunch more qualifiers for this event, it's still not a guarantee that you would actually make it through from any of them, even with players as good as these guys. Sorry about that. And okay, so the Reaper's going to be making its way across now. Once again, just to be a little bit of a nuisance, looks like Cyril wants to take the more aggressive third base, which I kind of like. Because what that's going to allow him to do is it's going to allow him to spread that creep much farther forward. Romanticide, while the rush distances aren't humongous, they still can be greatly improved on, giving him a good opportunity to keep that aggression up, because we saw Clem get that early aggression in, kept that parade push going, and so if you can get that creep out, if you can kind of stop that forward momentum, that's how you beat him. That's how you push through. What it also allows you to do is it allows you to have a safer fourth base. So as the game goes on, as those mineral fields start to dry up, having a base closer to home, easier to defend, will really do wonders for you in terms of keeping that economy up. And it looks like once again Clem did go for the 3cc opening, going to be following it up with a bit of a modified 2-1-1. So this is something that some Terran players have kind of been experimenting with as well. Getting the racks after the factory, only making 2 Hellions to kind of rotate around, get rid of some of that creep, as well as kind of just try and put a little pressure on the Zerg player. One big problem with it, though, is if Cyril kind of recognizes that there's not going to be any additional Hellions coming in, that's his indicator that he can still drone up really heavily and just rely on the queens to defend. He doesn't need to overmake lings early on. And you can kind of see he's taking advantage of that. 5 more drones on the production tab, going up to about 50. And also just going to use these lings a little bit positionally, just going to do what they can to kind of get some snipes, it looks like. Going straight for the third base. Now Clem is just kind of powering up. He will be able to deflect pretty favorably here. The Hellions do get caught, but they will be able to escape with the KD8 charge. Cyril is getting pretty scary right now. He's going up to lair. His upgrades are so much quicker, as the engineering base have not completed for Clem just yet. We also have the Baneling Nest coming on down, so this is the point where Clem has to start doing a little bit of damage. He has to slow down this economy. Unfortunately for Cyril, though, he's not able to clean that up just yet, so he is still vulnerable if there is some sort of tank push coming across. The Banelings as well, completely exposed. They will go down. A couple of them getting canceled, but now the Queen's coming in to try and deflect. They want to get on top of those medevacs. Now here we go. This is a little bit of a back and forth push here. Clem gonna reinforce this position, so he is not going anywhere. The Woodmines do burrow up. It looks like Clem not gonna rely on his focus fire for that one. Instead, just gonna pick up and try and reposition, but the creep does give Cyril more than enough ways to get back across. No fourth base right here, as Cyril is taking the top expansions. So Clem will have to, you know, I don't think he should necessarily push in here either. Keep these Marines alive. You Yeah, just put on a little bit more pressure. Scan, come down. Don't lose them, though. That is absolutely humongous if you lose them. We'll find a position, though, in the main base. The Lings are out of the way. And now Clem going for the 1-2 punch. Looks like the Queens will come over here, but the Widowmines gonna get some decent connections, take out a lot of that health. The Transfuses will save a couple, but not for very long. As the Marine's just gonna dive right on top there, gets a couple of them. Small Baneling connection, not gonna get too much. It looks like he chips some of the paint on those SCVs. Clem has to pick up again. He is just trying to trade out. He is just trying to get the snipes on those Banes. Fight outside of the range of creep. Here we go, SERRAL gonna be able to clean this down. The Widowmine's not gonna be able to burrow, but you have to be careful. If you overextend, that's when Clem is really gonna be able to pounce on this. Looks like we are gonna be seeing burrow claws coming in for those Widowmines, so that is gonna take a minute to complete as we have a small Widowmine drop. Just gonna be looking for what damage he can. It's about 3 kills here as Clem is forced to back up again. The Hydra's joining the fray. So now those medevacs have to be careful as to where they lift up from. Looks like the Widowmine got another shot off. As we see SERRAL doing a really good job of cleaning up the Widowmines this time. As on 2000 Atmospheres, he had a little bit of trouble with them. Setting up a really nice concave as well. Yeah, Clem is just being very conservative with these guys. Staying off the creep. Now some huge Widowmine connections, taking out a lot of the Lings. And Clem, he has the army supply advantage. It's 116 to 86. So now SERRAL really just has to focus on getting good connections with those Banes, as you can't really trade out efficiently right now and still expect to win. It looks like a couple of drones did go down. Again, the Banelings rolling on into the SCV line, but Clem is in 2 locations at once, and SERRAL doesn't really have a lot to defend both sides. Look at this, SERRAL actually having to keep away from the main base as well, meaning that Clem can once again dive in there. Oh my goodness, SERRAL just having a lot of trouble here versus this aggressive Terran. Gotta be careful though, as those Hydralisks are whittling down the medevacs here quite fiercely. So as well, a little bit behind in the upgrades. He's only getting +1 attack right now for these Hydralisks. He does have +2 Carapace, which is helping him out slightly. But once that +2 kicks in for Clem, that is going to be humongous amounts of damage coming in. Now, Clem going to be bringing his forces together. SERRAL going to dive on top of this, looking for some good connections. Not really going to get him. He's wasting a lot on that siege tank. The pre-splits are looking pretty good for Clem, as he's just baiting SERRAL as far off the creep as humanly possible. Does lose a couple of the medevacs, but it's not really the biggest of deals for him, as he has so many. And now SERRAL's supply block, that is going to make this defense even harder. Like I was saying earlier, once Clem gets into a position, it's really difficult to dislodge him. even right there, getting some really beautiful connections on those Banes, making sure that he keeps this push going. As SERRAL gonna really try hard to get up to Hive Tech here. I think it's gonna be pretty necessary for him to do so. As Clem, he's not all in, but he is pretty dedicated right now. No more SCVs. He's slowly taking a 5th base. He really just wants to push this through now because we don't see any other units other than Marauder Widowmine tank. So there's no real thought of a late game here for Clem. He just wants to kill SERRAL. Funnily enough, he's still finding damage with these Widow Mines and the Liberators as well, just getting 2 or 3 workers a time, which is great because if he can keep that coming on down, then SERRAL's not going to be able to afford to remake this army. That Ling was working on that for such a long time. But Clem doesn't need a lot of time at all to get rid of that base down there. And now, once again, just the fact that SERRAL doesn't really have a lot here. He can't defend the main base and the front at the same time. A big run by, though, gonna look to even the odds. As that attack comes on in, the Marines and Marauders do get pushed back right there. The front base is brought back to defend. Even then, SERRAL does take a little bit of damage there from the Siege Tank and the Widow Mines here. So 19 workers going down. But at this point, Clem does want to start trading those out for orbitals, for mules, so that he can get that bigger army supply. And now just kind of rotating between the empty 4th and the main base while he sets up his main attack. SERRAL will jump on this, gets a medevac, but most of the units survive to fight another day. I think at this point, SERRAL wants lurkers. He wants something. He wants Vipers, just anything that he can get to help defend this. And while he does have a couple of Vipers, it's not really a lot. You know, the Siege Tank count isn't really that high, so I'm not sure if Blinding Cloud does go down. What am I going? Getting a good shot off on that Viper. SERRAL will start to push this back, but again, he's fighting off of the creep. And now with +3 upgrades about to kick in for Clem, this attack is going to get that much more potent. Luckily for SERRAL, though, there's no upgrades on those siege tanks. He's going to get right on top of it again, but is forced back further and further every single time. The attack upgrade kicks in, the plus the armor in 1 second. There we go. Now these units are so beefy, so tanky. As Clem is maxed out, he's going to go for the big push right now, looking to close things out. Can SERRAL hold on is the big question here. The Marauders coming in the front to tank a lot of that damage, expending a lot of the Banelings to do so. Yeah, SERRAL just takes so much right there. He doesn't have any Banelings left available to him. He's defending on both fronts. Clem did open himself up there, but it doesn't even matter. GG is called. Congratulations to Clem for qualifying. Better luck next time, SERRAL.